Welcome to all of you. And this is to our kickoff webinar for network water management in India. We were going to be doing this conference in April, and because of the situation, we have had to postpone it. But we've decided not to lose time and to continue to engage with people. And we've decided to have a series of webinars. We're going to do 4+ webinars over the next few weeks. And then, of course, we'll have the physical conference when we're able to do so. Those of you who have registered for the physical conference, you get to see the webinars and you get to see the physical conference. We are the first two that we're doing in the webinar series. First is interaction with Ms. Tara, and then we are going to have a utility perspective on our NRW, which Ms. Tara actually said just now that she'll also like to join that. That'll be sometime next week. Then that will be more deeply focused. Today, even though we have a number of urban and local bodies present, today the idea really is interaction between the mission director and the industry. Let me briefly introduce Ms. Tara to you. We have, of course, known her for, I think, about 4, 5, 6 years. She first spoke at our conference when she was Deputy Municipal Commissioner at Ahmedabad. And then she spoke again at our India Infra Forum when she was MD and Vice Chairman of Gujarat Industrial Development Corporation. She's an IS officer and as such has served in different areas, but a great deal with the ULBs in different places, Rajkot, Ahmedabad, Vadodara, etc. And of course, she's also been CEO of Ahmedabad Urban Development Authority. So with that, I will request Ms. Tara to speak on where the project is, what the initiatives are with respect to water and network management and NRW, and maybe impact, if any, of COVID. Of course, there will be some impact on the projects. And then I would request the attendees, if you can please send the questions via the chat. And Ritika will be selecting those questions and asking them. And so this will be via text chat only. I also wanted to thank Census, which has sponsored this series, and that has allowed us to do this series in a very good way. And so thanks to all of that. Ms. Tara, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I think this is not so much of a speech, but it may be a synthesis of what has been my learnings. And what is that we see as challenges, or what is the way we need to change the perspective of looking at water. Now, when you deal with water, it is seen as, it's seen as water is now, the traditional way of looking at water is every ULB will get water in 1 or 2 or 3 points from irrigation. Okay. And then it is, then you get into the infrastructure game of putting a pipeline and then reaching the water to areas. So there is this water treatment plant, then you have this water, district metered areas. Of course, these DMAs are not so watertight compartments in practice, whereas on paper it is. We know that each water distribution station reaches out to so many people, and it has become a pipeline and pipeline manufacturing, laying pipeline and providing water. But this is high time that we change the whole conversation to looking at it as a service in terms of quality and quantity. I don't think when we deal with water, yes, to a certain extent, some of the ULBs are looking at quality and quantity. But quantity you need to look at, because if it is very low, then there is a lot of backlash from the people. Quality, till it sort of results in a cholera or a dysentery, we really don't bother. Quality is like, it's typical that chlorine ka wo jo tube leke, wo yellow kitna dikhta hai, 2.2 ppm hai ki nahi. To that extent, we look at it. So now, water means today for ULBs is water pipeline infrastructure and supplying water and having water treatment plants. And then, then water distribution stations. Whereas I think we need to walk a little back in terms of water. Where is it coming from? I think every city should work on the path of knowing where is it coming from? Why am I relying on one source, or I'm having multiple sources of reliance? how am I going to see that I have freshwater sources within the city or within a certain particular perimeter of my city, which is, based on rainwater harvesting and at least, charging the aquifer and etc., which is totally now become a, that is not being looked up or looked out. There is no developed capability for it in the way, like today, if I have to lay a pipeline, Amrut has been extremely successful. I would call it successful because a lot of cities, jabki JNURM mein, there were 63 cities which were taken up. And out of which 40-45 cities performed reasonably okay. Matlab they did one project here, two projects. At least 9-10 cities performed extremely well. But again, these are all the regular performers, they know how to do the projects. Whereas in Amrut, I mean, I'm happy. Like, we are a developing country. We are transcending from, बच्चा अभी 10 mark ले आता था, 50 mark ले आ रहा है, 60 mark ले आ रहा है. So we are going that way. But I think there is one big, like COVID has hit us, hard, and we are made to think differently. I think in water, we need to really think differently from the angle of water secure cities. It is not water supply, it is a water security. It's as important as food security. Again, our water in urban areas is considered, you are talking about when the water enters your area and goes out. So you are not bothered even about, we are not bothered even about how much water is going out and in what way. We are so much focused on gaps in water supply, but used water, I won't call waste water. We need to change that parlance. Used water, where is it going? How is it going? Whether it is polluting the existing freshwater streams, most of the times it is. And then how can we leverage this resource? Now, Chennai had a major water crunch. And I know of people who have spent 1,000 rupees per day to get water every alternate day. Okay, if you tell Chennai water ko save karna hai, they will understand because they've spent what money. Many of the cities don't even pay what you pay for your Tata Sky or cable TV for water. We don't pay that much also. So water has been seen as a free resource. Not to dwell on this whole angle of water being wasted. Non-revenue water, I would say non-revenue water are two types of non-revenue water. Anyway, I'll come to that later. So the water as a resource should be gone back to its origin. We should go back to the origin of water, and we need to make cities and map freshwater bodies. You have a beautiful database visual which you can see in NRSC. I think we need to use scientific databases like National Remote Sensing Center, which gives you a temporal data of several years of water bodies. How big they were. You cannot measure the depth. That anyway you can do it. You will have, say, 25 major water bodies in your city. You can always go and measure how much is the depth and how much is the volume and all. But the surface coverage of water, it is really readable straight away from the temporal data of NRSC, which we are willing to facilitate to cities to look at that temporal data and study. I think we need to base our water on some kind of practical research modes. You cannot have our water coming, aa gaya aaj, theek hai. There might be a big dam which may be supplying water. So, a two or three cycles of drought, you're finished because you are relying on single source. So I think we need to change from single source to multi-source, and then also identify which were the sources of water. I think before 50 or 60 years, even in cities, it was not the pipeline water which used to get supplied. It used to be the wells. Yeah. Now, wells have not been focused on at all. Unless you focus on wells, you will not get your aquifer concept clear. So I think what wells in the urban area should be relooked at with a little more, I think it should be systematically relooked at. Then wells you have to look at. You need to use, what are the bores which have failed? If you can't take out water from the bores, can you put in water back into the aquifer using the failed bores? That is another investment which can be leveraged. The third thing we are looking at is, how do we protect? Look, if you cannot have real estate everywhere. Your master plans have to define where the urbanization stops and where the rural area starts. Now, if you look at the state I come from, like Ahmedabad, after a certain point, Ahmedabad stops. Then you have very green areas. There is an intermittent green area between two urban agglomerations, which have to be, I mean, if you don't maintain it, your water security is under threat. But to maintain that, the only way you do is not allow the land use change. Now, you don't allow the land use change where there is strict regulations. And it makes sense. Like in Ahmedabad, if you try to build in a field farm and then get a utilization certificate, you won't get. Completion certificate, you won't get it. If you don't get the completion certificate, you cannot sell the house. Nobody buys it. Because completion certificate and plan approvals are two things which gives the title clearance. We based it on title clearance. So it is important that the title clearance is a precondition to plan approval, and plan approval is precondition to building use certificate, BU certificate, which says, okay, ye building ko government recognize karti and therefore takes some responsibility to provide infrastructure. So I think that the master plan regulations of any city has to say, this is the place where I will have thick urban densification, and this is a place I won't have. And that is actually part of urban agglomeration. But and therefore, some of the benefits of revenues and water from that area which you buy should yield revenues to the adjacent villages. But what is happening in adjacent villages is, based on the road networks, there is ribbon developments happening because it is unplanned. But you are allowing, and that becomes easier. So many places, they not even thought out intermittent green spaces to be preserved. When you make master plans, your areas are very, very, city is taken. City cannot be having a master plan. City has to sit in a huge metropolitan area to have a master plan. And metropolitan area doesn't mean urbanization. Metropolitan means there are dense urbanization pockets with intermittent green farm lands. So all these are, and you make that land fertile by sending back water which you use only for domestic use, and then treat it reasonably and allow it to flow in a canal to these places with strict quality standards. Then there is a green around your city. At the same time, you are giving back water, taking water, and then this has to be really managed. So in the Amrut, we looked at water supply infrastructure gap, that is providing tap to every household. But the sequel of Amrut, which we are considering the Jal Jeevan mission, what we are saying for the urban areas, what we are saying is draw out a water balance plan. Now, water balance plan means you start looking at cities from the angle of what are our freshwater bodies. You may not today use that freshwater body to drink water from it because you have not laid your infrastructure that way. But I think we need to go back to our ponds and lakes and maybe create a few also, and then look at failed bores and see that it is cleaned around and put a little bit of, cleaner sand and this thing and harvest rainwaters. It is two-pronged benefits you get. One is you harvest rainwater. At that same time, you prevent urban flooding. We have done this. I'm not saying out of theory. We have done this in Ahmedabad in 2014, 15, 16, when I was there as municipal commissioner. I realized urban flooding is a major problem. You know what we did? On the roads, we did bores, reverse bores. So on the road, there is a reverse bore which takes your rainwater into the ground. And these kind of strategies, these kind of micro planning. Again, we did a 1 MLD tertiary treatment plant, but to find a consumer, even for that 1 MLD was major challenge. Okay, when there is an industry agglomeration, like even Ahmedabad supplies water to irrigation for the adjacent villages. But if you want to find in-house in the cities, the people who can consume used water, it is really difficult because you don't have that. If you have a pipeline of fresh water, I think sooner or later we need to think of pipeline of used water. But the pipeline of used water can go around in a particular area, ward-based or a multiple ward-based approach. It cannot be too centralized. It cannot be too decentralized. And again, water, when we look at the infrastructure, whether it is a treatment, water treatment or supply, too much of decentralization, you cannot control the quality. Too much of centralization, it has a huge infrastructure cost. Somewhere in between, we have to do it. Your strategy has to be, there are cities. Cities are usually industry pockets. Usually, if you like it or not, unless there are industries, there won't be cities. Okay, we may say remove the industry. If you remove the industry, there will be no cities. So the only way is to, in India, there is always a problem of pollution versus starvation. We really need to balance it out. We can do it. It warrants, and there's so much of awareness. Earlier, people used to put reverse boards and push toxic water into the ground. We did that earlier. Some of us did that earlier. Now people are not able to do it because there's stricter norms. There is awareness. However, still a long way to go in terms of many industries, taking to the right path. But unfortunately, what we are not looking at is, look at a city. Where is the city not having industries? That area you demarcate as a clean used water area. Then you make a plan for that. Maybe that is a water which with very low treatment cost may be available for you. And many of us think industry needs very bad water. Let me put it and make it very clear. Many industries require better water than what you drink. So this is another misconception that water will treat and you will give it to industries. It doesn't matter. In fact, industries are not willing to take water if your quality is not benchmarked, because they need a particular level of cleanliness. In fact, it is much more stringent than the water you drink. Your TDS could be, I think, 200, 100 or something, or 200 something for drinking, your TDS. Whereas it cannot be 250. It has to be below 50 for many industries. So your water which you give for industries, but you can give a particular level and then ask them to retreat according to their needs. Because water as a resource, and again our pricing of water, we are collecting very less for drinking water. Yes, drinking water is very little. And India is a poor country, so many households, this whole idea of giving 140 LPCD to everybody, again that concept has to be questioned. We need to give as per the need of the person, and that need cannot be greed. And if a person is using a lot more water, that person should take it for used water for that purpose. If I have to use it in lawn, so that means a double pipe network is a way to take. And having a water balance plan emerging out of sub-city or sub-district water balance is very important. And again, looking at the interdependability of the urban used water for agriculture and industry vis-a-vis taking fresh water from the periphery or peri-urban areas is also an important angle. Today, you are paying through your nose for the water, for the raw water, but we are not actually looking at even our adjacent villages as a place where this water can be, it can be the source of water. So I think we need to really look at water from the source point of view, because we have now reasonably reached a lot of households. Now coming to the service point of view, when it reaches the consumer, now the consumer, metering is the best way. And I think some of the states and cities have adopted very innovative way of, getting the people meter. If you save so much water, if you use, you get some concession or you don't pay, then people meter themselves sometimes. But the quality part of it has to be, because quality part of it again has to be, because water which is supplied at the start point has a very good quality. But when it reaches a household, it really becomes, there are so much of pollution, especially in Charles and slums. So what you have as an infrastructure problem, infrastructure solution to a normal area vis-a-vis a chawl and slum has to be really different. It's a very, very crowded, and there is no place to put your pipeline. Can we have it above the ground? Because the most difficult areas are Charles and slums. And at least 50% of our population live in that kind of situation. So we need to really look at what will be our water supply management technique for that areas. And again, collecting the wastewater from a slum or a chal is a major this thing. So all this, and how do you collect sewage? If you manage your sewage well, then you are protecting your freshwater bodies. If you manage your industrial effluents well, then we are protecting our freshwater bodies. And I think there should be a combination of surface water and groundwater approach. Unless you do that, surface water is going to, you will be moving far and far and far from the cities to get the surface water, because your city water management is really not based on some other source. So I would only say there's so many angles to it. There are SCADAs, there is how people will use. But one thing is very important. Water data transparency is utmost important. If you don't do that, then you have a problem. So I think I don't want to lecture too much. There's so many good concepts and good technology which is available today. Even desalination techniques are much more cheaper than what it was. The only problem is we need to really have graded response to different kinds of water which is being used. Everything cannot, again, STPs, and I'll conclude with this. Again, STPs and CETPs are being built. Now that is infrastructure. But if it is like managing a house, almost managing a STP or CETP. If you don't manage your microbes well, they are of no use. I mean, what is the point in having a huge this thing if the flocculation is not properly handled, if there is oxidation is not properly handled? So I think a lot of things, I know STPs, the STP construction is also done by a few companies. Now we need to get a lot more capability in that private sector. Today, I mean, India is such a big country, not 4 companies which can cater to it. There's so many companies which can come out, and there's so much of money in it. Because today, and third point which I wanted to tell you is, we are now going to think of slowly starting out water as a resource. The way, electricity companies have done it, like the companies have come up, private sector companies, and they're distributing electricity. Same way to start with, water should never be in private hands for profit, but can we see a part of it, totally managed by a competitive, data transparent service provider, so that can we also disaggregate water infrastructure as pipeline, where the water pipeline laying and management can be privatized, the water can be governments. So, I mean, there could be so many models, like the way petrol pipelines are, gas pipelines are. Why can't there be water pipelines which can be totally done and anybody can pass the water through it and then we pay the rent to it? You can have many models. I think it's high time we make our, water is the key. Without water, our country cannot develop. But it is really in a bad situation if we are not going to address it, that we need to really change the way we work. Companies should not think it as, pipeline kharida, dala, or uska kham khatam hua, usme we have made our margins and we have got out. That is one story. The other part is whether as a service, this particular pipeline is adding to the value. And, the choice of pipelines. It has become a major, again, an issue, because it is sometimes dictated by other than merits. So I think we need to really look at societal benefits in water and societal costs, rather than just cost and benefit in terms of that work being conducted. I think the monopoly of infrastructure of water, both in terms of industrial players and also the governments and ULBs, we need to really break that monopoly to get in a little more challenging environment, so that everybody behaves and pays and gets the water. I think slowly it will happen. It is happening, and we will also push towards that, so that the water becomes, I mean, it's not very difficult, but only thing is our own regulations are stopping it. So I think we'll work in that space. I don't want to continue beyond this. I think I've said enough. If there are any questions and discussions, we will take it up.
Thank you. There are actually many questions. I think we've almost got 20 questions. So we'll have to do some selection. 21 questions, in fact, already. And we've got about 84 people participating right now. Okay, one question, I'm going to read some questions for you. One question is that it's a question about Har Ghar Nal Yojana. Is the government thinking of investing more in order to keep people safe?
Har Ghar Nal Yojana is actually, there are, that is the Jal Jeevan. Har Ghar Nal Yojana is nothing but Jal Jeevan Mission. Okay. And Jal Jeevan Mission is for rural. Okay. And for urban, Amrut has been there. Right. And we have just, at this point of time, 64,000 crores worth of work is going on in 500 cities. Right. And at this point, and we have completed 9,000 crore worth of works. And we have given water tap connections to around 70 lakh households. This is just the new connections. We are not counting, if you replace a tank or a pipeline where the service has been restored. So we have already catered to around the 3.5 crore or 4 crore population. And as I told you, Jal Jeevan Mission Urban is also under formulation, but this is only going to look at a complete circular economy of water. We are going to push 20% of treated water to be used at the end of 4 years for every city.
Okay. This is a question from Census about non-revenue water. Any particular successes that we've had in that regard, or your thoughts on that?
Nagpur has done well to a certain extent, and some of the pockets have done well. Now, non-revenue water is for two reasons. One is, you don't supply water to some of the slums or chawls saying that they are illegal. Okay, then where would the people get the water? You have more of the plumbers in those areas. Okay, so tap into the water network. That I won't call non-revenue water.
Right.
It is a service gap which has been created due to some regulatory parlance. But the non-revenue water is because where there are leakages, you have put 100 liters here and you are getting 50 liters at the other end. That kind of non-revenue water is because of infrastructure gaps. Now, infrastructure gaps and leakages, I think we now have a lot of good technology. For example, even sonic meters and all, which can tell you if there is a leakage. But only thing is adopting that technology, fitting it into the existing. Some of the pipelines are even, say, some of the trunk mains are even 70 years, 60 years, 50 years old. So, putting the SCADAs into the water system is very important. And that is something which we are insisting in the Jal Jeevan Mission. And right now, even in Amrut, that part of is being insisted upon. But I think in Jal Jeevan Mission Urban, which will be a sequel to this, we will ensure that we are talking about water balance only. So therefore, people should have to measure what is the source level water, what is the distribution level water. And sometimes people may not be able to meter all the houses. We are saying make water clusters. 1000 ghar ka bhi cluster bana dijiye, but wahan laga dijiye. So we know which cluster is behaving in what manner. So I think that's something which we are really looking at closely.
Ms. Tara, in electricity sector, also they had the issue of what they called AT&C losses, or used to be called T&D losses. In order to reduce that, they had this RADP-RP program, which is now IPDS program, where they enable utilities who were not able to invest in IT-enabled services, whether there was SCADA, there was metering, etc., digitization, automation, to ensure the losses were reduced. Some of
Yes,
the projects, of course, have that with Amrut as well. But what are your thoughts on that?
No, our thought is there is no way out. We are now going to make one of the underpinning basic requirement of the new mission is all tenders should have smart elements.
And what are some of the smart elements that you're insisting on?
We are insisting on sensors, in whatever manner it is called, wherever. It is leakage sensors, meters, water meters. We want smart water meters. We don't want the, manual meters. And nobody should be able to rewind it in the opposite direction. We want that kind of tamper-proof meters also. Right. So we are looking at various meters. We are looking at sensors to tell us whether there's a leakage or pressure drop in one place or the other. And we are also looking at, a complete system which by itself will analyze and push data. I think this is available in many cities. Surat has done that. Ahmedabad has done that. After we did that and we published data of the tanks, ki itna pani idhar aaya. So all the councillors who used to push and pull, because water is a very important resource. Everything else is secondary. Subah pani nahi aayega to aapko taklif. So all that came to an end. Now people had everything on the mobile. So you need to push data even to, the way you are now pushing your progress reports of your children into the SMSs of parents. We need to push water consumption data of every household, or at least every cluster, to the household person. So co-opting the final beneficiary or the final client, that is the public household which is using the water, as part of the whole water management strategy, is the most important aspect of NRW.
One question that many people have, because of COVID-19, will the government be diverting funds to healthcare, medical, and will it have any effect on Amrut, or will the government be spending more money
No,
on it?
no. In fact, it is going to be our focus is now to see that a lot of Amrut projects should start immediately, because the people who have gone back, I think all the companies who are engaged in Amrut, we are going to mandate them to get the labor back and start the work, because it's as important for us to start the economic activity as the healthcare, because bringing back these projects on track is the most important focus once the lockdown is over. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to now the questions from the audience, but I think NDMC chairman wanted to ask you a question. I don't know whether it's still logged on. Megha, can you facilitate that in a voice mode?
Dharmendra sir. Acha. Yeah, okay.
Megha, can you?
Alok, they said that they'll type a message.
They'll type a message. Okay, they will type a message. Okay, will you ask them? They can do that. They prefer that. Okay, fine. All right. Okay. Ritika, do you want to start asking questions?
Yes. So I can see about 33 questions right now. Some have been asked by Alok. Let me just try to filter them, Ms. Thara, for you. One question is that what is the government doing to ensure standardization of specifications across states for Amrut projects, as that is a big problem area right now?
See, CPHO keeps issuing advisories. Okay. Now, as far as the whole design of the mission is concerned, we never wanted to get into the technical aspects of the project, because one of the philosophies is the moment, one single body sitting in center like CPHO getting into the technical aspect, it delays, it gives enormous power. Okay, even at the cost of making a suboptimal decisions for the cities, let the cities and states be empowered to take those calls, because finally they are accountable and they also pitch in around 55% of the resource into the project. So that was the idea. However, we do issue advisories, but there are issues like sometimes your tender conditions are not favoring certain things, not because there is an ill design or malified intention, but because you're not re-looking at the specs, and the new developments and new companies and new technology which are coming on are not being adopted.
Right.
So that part we want to correct. So like for example, I may have Assam as a state could not find a lot of bidders. Okay. So then they had to change a little bit their conditions to fit and bring in the bidders. If I make a standardization, and then, even if I say it is a guideline, it becomes difficult for the states to cross that Lakshman Rekha.
Yeah.
So I think Government of India's approach is very good, but peer learning from each other and analyzing and giving advisories is the best way to take, instead of standardizing something. No, standardizing means, look, the most important thing is we want that the capability of deciding the best option be live with the states and cities, not with the center. We can give advisories, we can remotely tell them. If there is some issue of, selection of pipelines based on some kind of other considerations than this thing, then also I feel the responsibility, accountability comes to the state first, then to the center. Though we ask questions, we don't want to be dictating that.
Okay. There's another question from Rajkot Municipal Corporation. As you also rightly mentioned, that recycle, reuse of wastewater is very important at community and society level, and even water harvesting and recharging. So is the government doing anything to, sort of start auditing this society-wise?
As I told you, in Amrut, we were looking at just reaching the water tap to the household. But now in Jal Jeevan Mission, we are not looking at that. We are looking at complete circular economy. And we are setting targets for cities that 4 years hence, you should have 20% of the water recycled. Now, we have put an ambitious target of 40%, but we will be happy and accommodating 20%. The reason being, if you are able to recycle 20% of the water, as I told you, as the freshwater infrastructure exists, we need to put in used water infrastructure so that it becomes a normal thing rather than a special thing. So I think that is where the success will lie. And having a stringent quality standards. Yes, we are looking at, there's no other way. We need to look at water as a complete resource which is recycled and reused at least to 40%. Yeah.
Okay, another question from ma'am, Swachh Environment Private Limited. So within the AMRUT, in case of sewage treatment plant and network augmentation, does AMRUT funds provide flexibility to also use these funds for setting up new STPs, or only it's just for augmentation and repair of?
No, there are there is 7,100 MLD new STP capability being created on our AMRUT. It's going on already. Yeah.
Okay. Then we have another question with respect to how the government is looking to monitor, centrally service level benchmarks NRW and performance of contractors and ULBs.
Look, we are going to introduce the concept of Payjal Sarvekshan, the way Swachh Sarvekshan is going on. Now, Swachh Sarvekshan is more of a perception plus work-based, because even if your work has happened, the perception also needs to be monitored. But here it will be quite based on materialistic facts. Like Payjal Sarvekshan, we are looking at what is your service level. You don't need to say, we are not going to say, United Nations benchmark of 140 LPCD. Okay, we are saying you determine your service level. Select, but it cannot be less than a particular level, which we will consult the states and establish a minimum. So even a smaller household, like if you have a one-room house, the amount of water you use to, take care of that house will be little less than what it would be in this thing. So there are scientific studies to see how much water gets used in what kind of environment. And we are trying to see that this is taken up in a very major form. But the service level, yes. Once a city selects a service level, when we do Payjal Sarvekshan, we are going to do whether that much water is going, and it will be scientifically measured, and then the cities will be ranked.
Ritika, I'm reading one question.
Yes.
The MOEF has relaxed quality parameters for treated STP water, and this militates against safe recycle and reuse of treated water. Can there be better coordination between your department and MOEF? This is a question from Anant Kodabasal.
But have we said that this is the this thing? MOEF is the nodal ministry which sets the parameters.
So we have to live with those, yeah.
Yeah, you have to live with those. And one more thing is, yes, you can raise. We can discuss that. But since they are controlling the Water Act, they will come up with what is the kind of water which is acceptable. Parameters.
Another question is on metering, ma'am. What are the kind of initiatives that are being taken now, particularly with respect to metering? AMRUT has 100% metering target for water supply. So within AMRUT, are we also looking at smart meters and AMRs being deployed?
Yeah, it is happening. It is happening. All the cities which are doing, mostly they are adopting, because measuring water has become the most important aspect of demand management. So I think they are doing it. But right now, I would say we are not specifying the kind of which meters. Okay. So, but smart meters are being encouraged. But there are manual meters in some places which is being used, which now we are saying it has to be smart in all the infrastructure projects henceforth. Yeah.
There is a question from Arun Lakhani of Vishwaraj. Is there any plan for involving private sector for reuse of sewage treated water in PPP mode?
Yeah, we are willing. Actually, we are bringing in this concept that if somebody comes and says, look, STP ko humko de dijiye, hum isme se pani supply karenge to so many people. Yes, I think already it is happening. This is the decision at the city level. Like, for example, in Surat, the Textile Manufacturer Association, is taking water from the Gujarat Industrial Development Corporation estates. They're taking water of the Surat Municipal Corporation. And they have made an MOU among each other and amongst themselves, and they're buying. So I think this has no regulation from our side. What we are saying is you have to recycle so much. So if the city government has to be approached, and if you send us some request, we will definitely facilitate. If anybody wants to buy the STP water and use it, very well. I mean, I'm sure you should know. I mean, this will be, in fact, I'm foreseeing a situation where the STP water will be auctioned.
Ms. Tara, Ahmedabad, in fact, if I'm right, was the first to come up with the reuse policy. And but
Gujarat came up with a reuse policy. Yeah.
What has been the progress there?
Yeah, I think we already have a lot of things which are going on. I mean, look, policy or ye karne ka policy is only when everybody has to follow. So there was a focus and on that. But otherwise, Surat, Ahmedabad, irrigation ke liye pani use hi ho raha hai. And then even there is the water, STP water is being used to dilute the pollutants of the industries. So industries buy that water. So there is an economy, but the way it operates, the quality benchmarks, the SOPs are not really uniform and standard. That's what we are looking at, to drill down to that level where you will make it. आज जैसे आपका fresh water का handling हो रहा है, वैसे used water का भी handling हो जाए. And for that, the city itself should understand which level of used water will require which kind of quality benchmarks. That we will be bringing out this time.
Ritika?
Okay, there's another question on project viability gap funding that may help to promote tertiary treated sewage to industries. So does AMRUT support these kind of funding mechanisms?
AMRUT the design itself is, we are done with AMRUT's this thing. But in Jal Jeevan Mission Urban, we have proposed that we will give VGF of 50% in some of the recycle projects. Not that, I mean, the money being limited to an extent of, we have suggested that whatever gets done finally as an approval, we will know. But we suggested up to 25 crores, we would fund a viability gap and to the tune of 50% of the viability gap from our side for a water treatment plant. Yeah.
Okay, and there is another question. It's more of a suggestion that tenders should be technology neutral and must have outcome-oriented conditions. And measuring outcomes could be critical. Also, instead of CAPEX type tenders, it should be CAPEX plus 5-year OPEX inclusive of power. So any
I think it is there in AMRUT, it is a mandate and everything is a CAPEX plus OPEX tenders. The only problem is sometimes the tender volume becomes very high and the states find it difficult to fund it. So one of the most challenging aspects is maintenance part. Yeah, I agree with you. And here we are making it mandate. Even in AMRUT, it's a mandate. You need to have 5 years maintenance. 3 years maintenance, I think, in AMRUT. But now in Jal Jeevan Mission Urban, we are coming up with 5 years maintenance. Yeah.
Okay.
Just a question.
Sorry, Ritika, there's a suggestion which says with huge capex in pipeline and monitoring, all turnkey projects should have NRW analysis and monitoring mandated with defined service level benchmarks done centrally.
I think totally agree. I totally agree, and we are bringing out that. That's what I said. It was like, from, doing all projects in a particular kitty, the government mission, central government mission from, there was a particular amount of money and the cities could do all the projects, any project they wanted. From there, this is the first time we said, we give you money for this sector and these requirements. So this is the first time you gave money and indicated the focus and said you can spend only in this. And that is why for the first time in India, we have around 83% coverage of water. I mean, cities like Tripura, which never had water supply to many of its areas, we invested, for 30% coverage, but the state government has invested another 30% coverage. And, put together AMRUT and other schemes put together. Orissa is a very good classic point and example, where they invested another 3,000 crores, we invested 1,700 crores, and all the cities of Orissa are being covered for water supply. Now I think it's right. We need to now look. I mean, we were walking. Those were the baby steps we were taking. But now is the time when you change the whole paradigm. You are not now going to talk about service level benchmarks, Payjal survection, source conservation, and how much water, wastewater. So we are talking about water balance plan of a area and city at one level, and when these cities congregate and it goes to state level, in fact a state water balance plan should be prepared, including the rural areas, because the water is not water sources could be apportioned, and the total availability of water vis-a-vis apportionment of water. That's a very important concept. That's what we are looking at and aiming at in this mission, new mission. Yeah.
There is a submission from Deepak Mantri of JWIL Infra. He says that since O&M plays an important role in success of project and complete ROI, it is requested the central government should lay guidelines for setting of KPIs, penalty, etc.
Yeah.
And one of the important factor to standardize the cost of O&M in different states have different benchmarks, which is sometimes low. So the contractor takes up the project, but then cannot deliver O&M, or it hampers the efficiency of O&M.
I would rather answer this question when I totally agree with this suggestion. The problem is O&M is the place where the L1 plays a big game. Okay. You don't operate a STP properly, you get a lot of money. Okay. And you quote very low. Right? Because today you don't have, when there is a very high acid content, there is a bypass also. Bypass exists in every one of these systems. I think we need to really clamp down on that kind of attitude, even from within the industry and within the government. I think we need to really look at that angle very, very seriously. Okay. So the O&M is the place where people underquote. Because capex to aapko banane mein hai, but O&M should not be underquoted. In fact, we would also ask the states to look at this angle very, very carefully this time, and they technically assess that O&M underquoting is not permissible.
There is a question from Punjab saying, when can we expect the release of the next installment? We have sent the UCs, 20% share received.
I think very soon. April has started. Yeah.
Okay. One more question is, how does two people have asked this, how Ministry intends to improve the quality of project DPRs in line with the ground realities? And it is always the case that
as I told you, we can be, look, we are sitting at a very different location. Okay. If the cities and the states don't take that interest, we can only push them to take that interest. This time when the new mission is going to come up, in fact, I wanted to talk to ULBs, start making your water balance plans. Very shortly, you need to submit your water balance plans to get into Jal Jeevan Mission Urban. Now, in that case, start looking at your city water balance. Okay. So I would say if, it's like asking, your neighbor cannot work for your welfare. Okay. You have to work for your welfare. So therefore, the onus is on the states and ULBs. We can advise, we can tell, we can connect you to the best practices. We can see one good leader in the state and one good municipal commissioner in the city or a municipal chief officer in a municipality can make all the difference. Okay. If they want and demand that help from us, we are here. But if the idea is we will be sincere and bothered about them and they won't be taking that much interest, that won't work. Because we really need to understand, they understand the situation better. I was on the other side, I was in the state, I was municipal commissioner. The amount of things which I would want to do should dictate, and many of the things we could do simply because we wanted to do it. And you will find a way. And if you don't find a way, there's so many people in this sector which can be helped. If you seek any help, we are willing to do. We are willing to give you technical assistance also. But the most important thing is your demand for it. So I think that's very, very important. Even the industry, even the government, even the ULBs, they should ask for it. Okay. Today I have 100 liters of water and I want to supply, I want to supply it to 10 houses for another 2 days for drinking. What do I do? That kind of, if you ask that question and you want a technical assistance, I'm willing to provide technical assistance. But we are not the technical experts. Okay, it is, so we will co-opt the technical experts. But the problem is many a times some states and some industries wouldn't like certain experts also. They keep their information opaque, and that doesn't work. So it's a very important thing to have an open mind and open collaboration from both. I mean, nothing could be better. Center is not saying you take this kind of pipeline. I mean, nothing could have been better. This is the time when you are making your choices. Now, you cannot blame for the choices you make on anybody. You need to make your choices in a very learned manner.
A couple of more questions are there. Should I ask them, Alok?
Yes, ask them. I have a few more.
So are you looking at seawater as an option for water resource domestic, and is funding available for the same under the Jal Jeevan Mission?
No, in Jal Jeevan Mission, we are not, we are not going to completely fund the desal plants. We may fund it a little bit, but that is up to you. The money kitty is limited. Now you want to use it for desalination plants because that is the only way you can, check your salinity ingress into your city and only way to handle the water resource availability. But that is not the best way to do. If it is the nature has not been kind because you are located in temperate desert region, वो अलग बात है. अगर ऐसा परिस्थिति नहीं है तो आपका अपना fresh water bodies को ये करना चाहिए, because desalination plants are, frankly speaking, there are technologies now in desalination where the cost is not as high as it used to be. Like today, I think 11 crores per MLD is what is the kind of ballpark figure for an industrial water. It may come down to 6 or 7 crores for drinking water. So I think, but do you need to spend that kind of money? Can't you use it for something else? If you are able to do work on your rainwater harvesting capabilities, because it comes in 1/10 of the cost of that. If you want to really rejuvenate your lakes and ponds and have a groundwater plus surface water combination of water supply.
Yeah, Luke, you want to ask?
Yeah, there is a question from one Mr. Atul Kaul, wants to know whether the software upgradation for ULBs, can this be included or funded by under augmentation of physical assets?
Yeah, smart elements is part of the tender. But
so he's talking about upgradation. If they already have software, but they now need to pay for upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, that one, it becomes it is not a part of a project. Now, if it is part of a project, it is okay. For example, it's a question I can answer like this. You can have two scenarios. You have all the infrastructure intact, only your software is to be upgraded. Then that is not funded. If you have some infrastructure gap and you're laying it as a part of it, if you use a part of money to upgrade it, then we really don't mind.
Another question is, can public parks be made available for small decentralized STPs?
Yes, of course it should be. It should be. That is ULB's decision to be taken. The first, as I told you, 1 MLD STP we made in a garden only, public park only.
Okay. Did we lose her? No, she's back. Yeah. Another question. In your opinion, which states do you think have done well in Amrut projects?
I won't answer this question by giving name of the states. The reason being, if I was, running a race with, one leg.
Right.
Okay. Was a state running the same race, with a good training as an athlete, they are not comparable. Right. But I must say it has been very encouraging to see city after city pulling up their socks, moving ahead. And I think the most important capability India needs to develop is to translate grant into an infrastructure which is meaningful to the people. And to that extent, we have succeeded reasonably well. I would say we have earned around 70 out of 100, if not 100 out of 100. And that itself is a very good progress we have made from where we were. And I think now slowly, next time the states which have never done projects, when they take up projects, after doing one project, samajh ke, gir ke, pad ke, ut ke, they will do it better. But some people who have been doing very well throughout, they will always be better performers. So by saying some states of, but I must say some states like Orissa, like Jharkhand, these states have done well, and that means it doesn't mean they've done well better than other states. I mean, but there they were and there they have reached. I mean, you have to measure that distance. It's a relative progress rather than an absolute progress.
Okay. Another question is, will the overall timeline for projects be extended beyond 2022?
No, Amrut has been extended by up to 21 now, and we're asking for extension because the works which are going on will need to be completed. But which have not started by May, June, those works will be cancelled for states. Because we don't want to wait. I mean, if you are not even able to award the tender, then that's something which is not telling very well. So, but I must say, a very happy situation. 77,000 crore has been committed to projects, out of which today we have 74,000 crores already completed and ongoing. So we don't see a big, and that's more than 90% achievement, and that's a great achievement.
Okay, Ritika?
Yeah, there's one more question which mentions that the DPR's consultants are underquoting massively and creating tenders with PQ that are very restrictive, favoring preferred contractors, and the tenders created are not outcome oriented. So is there any way of how these conflicts are being resolved?
No, the thing is simple. If you make a DPR which is underquoted and it is, this thing, people don't quote, contractors won't quote. Okay. So that shows that the consultant has failed. So he has to correct it. Okay, number one. Number two, somewhere we need to, the biggest space available today is in the consultant space. Okay. And the executing companies in the private sector. These two are the biggest gaps. We have 73,000 crore work going on. Now for 73,000 crores, you need at least 700 companies which will be able to do it. But we don't have so many. So I think that space has to, somehow we need to really proactively create much more capability. Because one after another, the same company doing kahi na kahi, the issues are, there is no competition. I know it all attitude, even the government. And the whole problem is then finally they also underperform because they are also burdened, though they don't have any intention to underperform. And then you can, once a thing underperforms, you can blame it on so many things. And government is the best place where blame can easily be taken to a situation where a government ke wajah se hua. But it's not true. Actually, we need to really look at, there are so many contractors who are so good and they would love to, they would raise their voice and say, ye aapke wajah se kharab ho raha hai, ye nahi karne dijiye. See, that also happens in some instances. But I think collectively we need to deliver an infrastructure as a service. And that is where our success lies.
There is a suggestion that the central government monitor the quality of water and publish it so that cities are focused on the quality of water.
See, in Ahmedabad, we used to publish it from lab. Surat publishes it. So establishing labs and publishing your water quality every week is a mandatory requirement. It's an advisory by CPHU also. I think week or 15 days.
The government does it for the city so that people can compare with each other. And some people
What we are saying is you publish it in your website and it will be taken up on our website. Nowadays, there is no question of, central government, state government. You are on cloud means it's available to the whole world. Yeah.
A very specific question. It says, can you please ask government whether it will approve data intelligence and artificial intelligence as a part of NRW's reduction strategy going beyond SCADA?
No, yes, 100%. If somebody demonstrates, that's why I said, we are not fixing what should be done. You tell us what you want to do and it should work. But when you take up new technologies and new works, please don't spread, please don't go whole hog with, this thing. Take a pilot. That would be my advice. Okay. Prove. And we will be very happy to support it.
Okay. There is a suggestion from Arun Lakhani of Vishwaraj saying there should be a rating system of consultants based on past performance and response and successful delivery of project to people.
Yeah, I guess we need to do that. We need to audit and do that. Yes. But I think we won't like to do that. We will emerge, we will make it a small paradigm will emerge where the states will do it. Because again, we want the states and the ULBs to act more capably. Okay. So we will be watching it and then finally taking a complete way of what they have done. Of course, it's still, as I'm talking, I'm thinking a lot, but I think we need to really do this. Rating a consultant is a very important aspect. Yes.
Just a question from my side is on revenue management systems which are being deployed by ULBs. What has been the experience there according to you? And is the data actually being utilized in the right manner?
Actually, there's not a big deal in there. What is the amount of revenues collected from all over the ULBs is not more than 20,000 crores. It's an unmissable figure. Whether it is tax or user fees, whatever, the ULBs. Unfortunately, we have dichotomies in the way the ULBs function. The reason being, only a few states have a completely empowered ULBs. Okay. So if you talk with ULBs for water supply, it doesn't make sense, because many a times it is not the ULB which is supplying water, it's a parastate which is supplying water. So there is a problem in terms of the powers, functionaries and functions which are completely with ULBs. And therefore, I think sometimes when you talk to ULBs, you also need to talk to the people who are doing the work for the ULBs or managing it. So revenue management, yes, as I told you, we pay less for water than we pay for our cable. Number one. Number two, we are really not, there is a political sensitivity about raising water revenues. Actually, we are actually looking at how, and one more thing is collection efficiencies. Okay. So it can be just a tax, and then there could be a water user charge. Okay, a tax is paid both for, that is the money which is used to provide services by the ULBs. Now, we need to look at how do we increase the efficiency. So one of the ways we can do that is clusterize your municipalities, okay, and go for a passport seva kendra model, okay, giving, and today you should dissociate the collection from assessment people.
Yeah.
Okay, a collection can be done by a electricity board fellow who takes to goes. I mean, we're looking at that model. We're coming up with something which will sort of revolutionize this whole space. If states and ULBs cooperate, we are coming out with a model. Say your collection of all the charges. A person pays so many charges. That need not be collected by 10 different agencies. There could be a front-end agency which can collect it and apportion it. So we're looking at that kind of model and clusterize municipalities so that you don't really bog down the tax fellows with assessment and collection both. Collection can become separate and assessment can become separate. All that is being thought of. Yeah, and that is a mandatory reform under Jal Jeevan Mission. Yeah.
There is a comment made that a very large number of contractors are under financial stress due to delay of payments for works done.
I agree with you that sometimes there are delays, and but usually any contractor who works for government actually builds that in as a part of the cost. But I guess sometimes when times such as now, when the tax collections are pretty low and there is so much of financial stress on all of us, I guess, yeah, we need to see that, the bill passing is done quite fast and quite prudently. That is the necessity of the hour. Yeah, there are stresses, yes.
Just one short question which looks interesting to me is that there are these 100 MLD plants which are there, and only about 20 MLD is delivered in terms of treatment. So this sort of issues, how can they be resolved?
Planning, you need to put in the pipelines to get the sewage into it. Now, I mean, there should be sometime, you don't need to build in future capabilities now for the next 30 years. Okay, water supply is okay for next 30 years. For treatments, you need to keep a shorter timeline so that maybe after 2-3 years, you will have a small chemical coming in a packet and just put it and everything is taken care of and cleaned and the water is used in your house itself. So this STPs of 100 MLDs, I think we need to really relook at this kind of huge, humongous investments.
Okay. Final question from me, which is a longish question. Could you just give us the top lines for the Amrit program in terms of how much was dispersed in the last fiscal year, and what are you hoping to do next year? Awards, dispersals, etc. Just very top line.
We dispersed around 7,000 crores last year.
And how much was it for water management?
It's only for water.
Amrit
is only for water. Only 2% for parks and 2% for. That's why I'm saying this is the first time country is creating 7,100 MLD sewage treatment capability in one go. This is the first time, yeah.
And next year, what is likely?
It's slightly more than that. Yes, the same amount maybe.
Okay. Just one, ma'am, what are the pipe network supply connection target for the next couple of years?
No, we have a holistic target of providing to 1.5 crore households, out of which we have completed around 78 lakh households.
Okay. So I think with that, we will close this session. Thank you so very much. Would you have any other remarks some questions we did not ask that you think we should have asked?
I don't know how many participants from ULBs are there. I would only say, since you have been part of this webinar, start preparing your water balance plan. That's a very important document. And that essentially I will send you, if you want, we can send you a model. But I would say start working it out. And if some of you can do it and send it to us, this can be the way the water balance plan look like. We'll be very happy. It need not emerge from the center. However, we can help you if you want to prepare that. So I would request that you start preparing your water balance plan and send me a mail, or you are an Amrut functionary group, you can send your details. And if any other city which is not an Amrut want to join, and just send it to my email ID. If you have any request for help, we'll see what can be done.
Ms. Tara, we are going to do a webinar next week with the ULBs, which will be on reduction in NRW. That will be the focus. And we would love for you to be able to join that one. That one is focused primarily on ULBs.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. And I would appreciate that, because I think ULBs need to get on board, and we need to know how many ULBs are directly into infrastructure work. How many are done any project at all of this nature.
Great. Thank you so very, very much. Thanks also to all the participants for their questions, and thanks to Ritika, my co-host, and thanks to Census for making this possible. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And attendees, if you can please use the chat for feedback, chat or Q&A for feedback. We'll keep the screen on for the next 15 minutes or so. Yeah. If you can just send feedback in the next 15 minutes. Thank you again, Ms. Tara.